はい。こんにちは。なんか、まあ、あれですよ。新しくゲーム買ってやります。よいしょ。ということで、一旦画面つけよっか。こちらのゲームを。これ、何入ってんの？何で入ってんの？買ったじゃん。でね、こちらをちょっとやっていこうかなという次第でございます。じゃあまあ、買いますか。ああ、お金ね。やばいな。はい。ああ、はいはいはい。あれね。ちょっと、ここの画面はあれだ。板が切るか。こうして、こうして、こうよし。よし。あ、カート入れときゃよかった。コピペ。サウンドトラックか。よし。で、買いまーす。えい。えい。ああ、セキュリティコードいいね。めんどくさ。えーっと。というわけで、買ってしまいました。買
思いましたか。
ってしまいましたよ。初にこれ処理用なんだよな。
そう。通話を何のために立てたのか俺は知らないんだよな。
なんとなく立てといた。
一人用なのにさ。
うん。あれどこ行った？まあ、あれだよ。ゆずさんの反応を見つつだよ。
何の。
配信があれちょっと遅れるだろうけどさ。
うん。
そうね。これウルトラデラックスだから買ったんだよ。スーパーデラッ
な
クスとかね、そこら辺だったら買ってなかった。 まあじゃあ、とりあえずね、ちょっと、プレイしていきましょうか。買う、使う、使う。Please choose a screen and subtitled language. 日本語。
そこは日本語じゃねノーサブタイトルっていう選択肢もあるのね。
前に、ないです。あ、待って、間違えた。
ないですって言いながら早く行くせいなの。
だってこれどっからなんの？大丈夫かな？
わかんない。
大丈夫かな？あ、よかった。
おお。
いえ。パソコンがギリギリ見えるぐらいね。俺は一体どれを従えばいいんだ？
ん
あ、でもこっち側に従ってきゃいいか。
うん。
あ、だってギリギリ見えてねえや。現在時刻。はいはいはい。
現在の時刻を入力
10
したんだ。
時。そこら辺はちょっと勝手に抜き取ってくれ。
ね、ほんと。
ちょうど今8分になった。
8分になったね。
はいはいはい。OK。そこは OK なんだ。了解とかじゃなくて。いや、これ。まあ、一つ操作方法だけね。まあ、進む W キーでやるんだ。珍しい。で、スペースジャンプ、E でなんか調べる、追加、わかんねえな。オートオークとかできんだ。持つとかはないんだね。じゃあ、やっていきますか。スタート。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
はい。
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did
なんかいつ
every
も
day,
暇人
every
だな。
month of every year.
でも窓際じゃねえからまだなんか
Stanley
あれなのか。
relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
ハッピー。
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the
これじゃ
company
ん。ワンモン
had
ドー
this
トいっぱいある
happened.
ってことじゃん。
This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
どうだったか。このなんか。よし。お、なんか売ってんじゃん。真ん中の点ないの。ないのか。これも反応すんの。 ずっと反応してんの？なんかバグった？なになに ?You can't jump. ジャンプできねえよと。ああ、ジャンプできないんだ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
白。この鉛筆を削るだけの仕事の人。
何用だろう。鉛筆削る以外の時間は自由なのかな。
いいなぁ。いいのかな。でもそれで金発生するんだったらいいか。
確かに。
あっちあんのかなんか。とりあえず進むしかないのか。ダッシュもできなくない？あ、こぼれてる。あ、色味がバックルームだよな。なんか。
うん、確かにな。
赤くなるのかな。開かなくて、開かなくて、開かなくて。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
そうね。このゲームは一応、こう、上で声で指示出してくるやつと、その指示に従うか、自分で、今左手だっけだから右行ってみるってのもできるし、
そうね。なんか、そういうゲームだっていうのはなんか聞いたわ。
まずは、ちゃんと、ちょっと、はじめはね、従ってあげようと思うんで、行きましょうか。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it
ナ
perfectly
ナレー
well.
ションとかがいる感
Perhaps
じ
he
の
wanted to
ゲーム
stop
見た
by
ら
the employee
ナレー
lounge
ショ
first, just to
ンが
admire it.
ついてるゲームのなんか、それを見たときなんかね、なんだっけあれ、錯覚利用するゲームの、
うん。
あれを思い出してるね、なんか。
グリーンピアー
そうそうそうそうそうそう、グリーンピース。
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
今、シュンさん、コカ・コーラ探して
これね、
なかったか。
これ一休みして、会議室に
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
最初のドアは左側ね。でもこっち来てえな。どうしよう。いや、こっち行くな、俺は。
もう言うことを全て無視して。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
いや指示に従ってやるから戻せよ。うん。倉庫だ。
本当だ。
金かかんの？
ペナルティーフォー、
ジャンプしたら50万かかる。5万円？
リフトの上でジャンプをするってことで。5万円じゃなくない ?5000 ドル、1兆100円って計算雑にしたとしても。
50万だよね、やっぱ。
うん。
グラボ買えんじゃん。
50万。
でもジャンプするろ。
Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his
死ん
death.
だの？
Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are
ジャンプ
very
するで
powerful.
50万のペナルティの上は、
うん。
リフトの不正使用に関する警告やったわ。
あれじゃあ10万が。
そう、10万はリー
All
チ
of
の
his
静止画だっ
co-workers
て。
were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
それで
Perhaps
じ
he
ゃ
had
あさっき
simply
のと
missed
こ
a
ろまで
memo.
行きましょうか。
行きましょう。
あれかな、
Stanley came
LINE
to a set of
ビデ
two
オ通
open
話とか
doors.
さ、
He
ディス
entered
コー
the
ドの
door
ビデオの
on
方
left.
が遅延ないかな。
のはずだよ。つけてくれるんやったら俺、リアルタイムで反応してあげるよ、じゃ
ディスコードでやるか。
あ。はーい。
音声とかはディスコードの方が良かったはずなんだよ。
そうね。で、ディスコードアップデート15って言われ、15個あるって言われたけど、起動しとくね、ディスコード。
ダイレクトメッセージから行くんだ。
お、伝達される。
ディス
つうか、もはや、電話やったら、あれか、LINE 通話いらんか、曲は。
うん。
ビデオ通話に参加したけど、合ってる？
やってると思う。あ、課金してないから、30fps しか出ね
な
え。
あ。はい、
大丈夫かな。
いよいよ。
配信しながら、そっちに配信しながら録画までしてっから、ちょっとさすがに厳しそうな気がする。
なあね。
映ってる？
映ってる、映ってる。
とりあえず、さっきの、
This was not the
また
correct
右のドア
way
行
to
っ
the
て。
meeting room, and
左
Stanley
の
knew
ところ
it
入れって
perfectly
言われるか
well.
ら、
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee
あ、で
lounge
もほとんど
first,
遅延ないわ。
just to admire it.
え
Wow. Yes.
スルさんの方から飛んでくる
But
音
eager
っ
to
つ
get back
う
to
の。
business,
通話越しに聞こえ
Stanley
てく
took
る
the
声と、
first open door on
ビ
his
デオ通
left.
話の方で聞こえてくる音が、ほぼ同時。
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
二人人がある。
どうしよしあっち行ってほしいのかな。
うん。まあ、多分、アナウンサーじゃないのに。あ、ああ。降りてっちゃった。
But Stanley didn't want to go
あ
back
れ
to
なん
the
か、
office. He wanted to wander about and get even
なん
further
か、
off
バッ
track.
クルームで見た
So
ような
now
気
in
がす
order
る
to
光
get
景に
back,
また
he
入って
needed
き
to
たな。
go,
うん。
from here it's
左？
left.
オッケー。
おお。他は開かない？開かなさそうだね。
Oh no, no,
Hmm,
it's to the right. My mistake.
さっき右行ったの
No,
に。
no, no, no,
どっ
not
ち
the
どっ
right.
ちどっち。
Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly. Oh dear, would you hold on for a
道に
minute?
迷ったやん。
台本みんな。
Now let's see. We
静
went
かも
down
しれない。
right, left, down, left, right. Yep. Okay. Yes,
うん。
I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely
そこ
this
ね。
way.
あ、これなのか。お、
うわ。
あれじゃん。アーモンドウォーター運んでるトラックじゃん。
ああ。ブンブッブンブッブンブッブンブッ。
お、
No, 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 no.
Hey, take it
This
into go.
isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close
427
your
番
eyes.
ね。
目閉じろ。
Okay. We just have
いや
to.
こういうの見たらさ、
うん。
Who am I
俺は、これどう配線してんだろうが先
The whole
に。
story
ああ
completely
ね、確かに
unusable.
ね。
How about rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, hmm? Okay, from the top.
あ、
おはようございます。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
もうじゃあ、今回は、
When Stanley...
Ready?
Wait,
どこ？
wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
だけど。
It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
ジャンプさせろよ。ジャンプってあんだっけ？あるよね。 あるわ。まだできねえんだ。まだできねえってなんだよ。バックルーム始まった。バックルームが始まりましたよ。でもスタンリーはね、メンタルツーツーだからアーモンドウォーターなんていらないんだよ。
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
メロもう。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
メモ。またバグってる。
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
戻ってみろ。はいはい。
Aha! I knew we'd miss something.
Oh.
The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
行き止まりだった。また違うじゃん。
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
Sure.
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
Restart. 何これ?
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable adventure line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
なんか TM までついてね。で、あれもう道違うじゃん。脱線しちゃう。
No, I'm down. We're leaving it up to the line from now on.
ラインがね。やっぱあっち行かなきゃいけねえのか。ソリティアじゃね？絶対そうだ。
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
壊れてんじゃん。なんとかライン。
ハテナって書いてあったらいい。おうねうねしてるけど結局ただ直線抜けていくだけっていう。
なんかプロセカの黄色ノーツのロングをやってるよね。お、なんか赤いのがあるってことはなんかいけるんだ。あれ、どうなってんの？
あれ
もうどうなってんの？
めちゃくちゃ。でもあれじゃない？そっち行って向こうまで行ったらそこに出てくるんじゃないの？向こうが。
なるほどね。何
なんかよく
がしたいんだ？
わからん、ぐるって回って結局さっきのところに着くじゃんみたいなさ、多分。
Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern.
戻って。
Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the
なんかよ
story.
くわかんないネタバレみたい
Make
に書いて
sure
ない。
you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
はいはい。落としちゃダメ。葉っぱの数とか？
すげえやな、葉っぱの数。
面倒。
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line. You do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
また書いてきたよ。
あそこがゴールの気がするから他も。いやでもこれは最初のとこじゃないか。
本当だ。
うん、あそこそうだったの。じゃあここは地下なの？もう。はい、
Oh, no, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't...
いろいろ一緒に乗り越えてきたのか。
with it.
なん
Restart.
か、何個かあるね。
うん。リサート。
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people,
もう終わり
right?
じゃん。
Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
ああ、こっちね。行ったことねえな。
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go
見つかって
wild.
そう。
Use your imagination. Whatever
あ、
it
て
might
か
be, Stanley.
これは、
I'm
無限にルー
ready
プして
for
ないか
it.
い？
帰ればなんとかなるはず。そういうのなんとかなね
うん。
え。あれ、
ああ、新しいところに着いた。
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new
ラインが
story.
めちゃくちゃ割り込
No
んでき
lines
た。
or monitor rooms.
ザ・ムライン。
Just don't
ぐらい。
acknowledge it. We should be fine.
絶対 TM をつけたがる。
いい途中だね。ああ。上帰っていった。
無理じゃん。
無理だね。
Ah, a
これ
choice.
やだ。
We get to make a decision.
お、
From
右
here,
か
the
左かって
story
こ
is
とか
in
な。
our
多分。
control. How
右
important
左
we
どっち
mustn't
ってやつ。
squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead
何をさせてるのそれは。もう
somewhere.
バックルームズの階段の登り方じゃん、それ。
There must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds
逆の反
with
対の
the
裏って結局どっちな
counter-inverted
の？
reverse
僕
door's
の反対の
origin.
裏は
So starting from the
表なん
right,
じゃない。
let us ask,
表なのかな？
will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
両方開くんだろうな、きっと。
え
選択肢なか
で
った。
も言うて、
あ、ドアあるわ、ちゃんと。
混乱。
Hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game eight times? That's really how all
ね、
this
みんな
is?
やる。
It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Do it.
And the timer.
ああ、もう変なことすっから。
Does that mean did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you do...
ちょっと水飲んでる時に急にやめて反応できないから。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley? Its grace, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
左。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
ここら辺までわかんねえな。
Look,
そこ
Stanley,
で
I
飛び降り
think
ないで
perhaps
す。
we've gotten off on the wrong
待機
foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I
下
realize
に LINE いたね
investing
今。
your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
今か
Let me
ら。
prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
はいはいはい。いいよ。ほら。ほら。グリーンピアーズがそろそろ出てきそう。
ね、ほんと。
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
あ、カード見つけたらワンチャンアクセス。
どちらにしようかな。よっしゃ、言ってやるよ。
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me.
お前の
You
話
see
聞い
that
た
I
わけじゃねえ
really
けどな。
have wanted you to be happy all this time. The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I want it to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just
告白
stopped.
ちょっと
And
幸
I
せに
think, well, I think I have a solution. Here,
さん
let
告
me
られ
show
た。
you.
怒られちゃった。もう開いた。バイバイ。いくら。
死ぬんちゃう。スマイリーかなんかに食われて死ぬんちゃう。
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh,
アストロニアの
it's
宇宙
beautiful,
か
isn't
なん
it?
かかな。
If we just stay right here, right in this
基地の人口
moment,
列あたり
in
ちゃ
this
う。
place, Stanley, I think I feel happy.
うん。
I actually feel happy.
早くあそこに来て。うん。うん。うん。うん。おお。出ますよ。いいんですか？どうやってんのこれ。モニターかな？はい。
No, wait.
あ、はい。
Where are you going?
何ですか？
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
うん。そっか。
そっか、していくじゃん。まあでも自分から飛び、飛ぶ、
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
何をしようとするか考えて。そうだな。どっか飛べそうなとこないかな。ねえな。どうしてほしいのか言わなくていいの？言っちゃうよ。言っちゃうの？S をしてくださいって言わなくていいんすか？
S をしてください。
S をします。
No!
ああ。
Oh,
生
thank
きてた。
God. You lived.
まだ高さが足りなかった
No, what are you doing,
多分
Stanley?
俺今ので
Please,
あれで
I'm asking you not to
一歩
take
足
this
踏み出
away
して死
from
んで
me.
るよ
I
多
can't
分
go back to what I was before.
アストロニアの
If
時
you die, we'll both go back. Why are you
こ
doing
れであそこ
this?
戻ったらあいつなんか言うのかな？
ああ。踏みとどまった感出しとく。
そうそう。やっぱり、あなたは私のことを理解している。つって。あ、ここなってる。
いるんかな、近くに化け物。
いるのかな？
There. See?
お、変わっ
This
た。
is what you
変わった。
want. This is where we can both be happy. We really can. If we stop moving, we just have to
動
stop
くのやめた
moving.
ら動くのやめなくちゃいけませんとか言う。急に小泉してたけど今。遊んでんな。
もう調べられるのないかな？あれ全部ゆずさんのデスボなんでしょ？
あ、そう、大正解。よくわかったね。
やべえな。これは、なんだ？ゆずさん。
今まで打ち上げてきたグラビティ脱出グローブが
あー。
太陽光かなんかで変色してできたものだよ。
なるほど、なるほど。じゃあ、あれは何だろう？
あれはなんだろうね。
ま
あれかな
じゃ
あの
死ぬか。
溶鉱炉による水素爆発で吹き飛んだ
あー
ガラクタのかけら
Go
たちの
back.
集まりな
There's
んじゃない
nothing
かな。
good that can come from this.
ですね。
だか
Do
ら
you just not believe me? What can I say to convince you?
うん、なんていうか納得。グラボちょうだい。
無理だな。
で。
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
うん。
おーって言いながら登るな。
Is this really how much you dislike my game?
な
Would you
んだ
throw
よ。
yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
合ってるか合ってないかね。いや別に特に何にも。
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it.
あ、そう、それ
I
それ。
don't know anymore.
ああ、答え分かった
I
ね。
just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all.
いやだってさ、
Well, this one is yours.
高いとこまで行ったらさ、下が青白くなってそこから次のレベルに行けるって書いてあったの。
こうね。
結構いけんな。
うん、確かにね。
ああ、かな。
Is it over?
あ
It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
しゃあ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
あ。さっきまでなんか、すごいしょげてた感じだったのに、リスした瞬間普通に喋り出すじゃん。
あの感じからしたらなんか死んだらデータ飛ぶっぽいからね。
なあ。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the
早
first
く移
open
動
door
しす
on
ぎ
his
て、
left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
上司のオフィスか。
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
取れねえかな。
ありそうなアイテムあり
There
そうや
was
けど。
nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
取れねえか。
また階段あるよ。
ね
Staircase, Stanley
上の階
walked
そう上の階
upstairs
上の
to
階
his boss's office.
え、バケモンいるって近く。
いやいやいやいやいやいややばい、あっちにもいる。車だ。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical
し
sense.
てる。
And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
海外の部屋だ。
Simply repeating.
これがね
ほら、角度をず
This is
あ
all
ー
too
っと見
strange.
て
This can't be
文字を見
real.
なきゃ。
And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying, and began to gently float above the
なんでたま
ground.
に車のとこに戻されるんだろう
Then
ね。
he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he'd still not woken up.
多分全部
How
空っ
was
ぽ
he
だよ、中身。
remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head
車乗れない。
dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was
誰か。
describing itself being considered by
逆走して
Stanley,
み
who
る。
found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how
逆走しても
it's
なんか同じこと
describing
だ
my
ね、今。
thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
ないんじゃない
Stanley is as awake right now
A,
as
B,
he's
G,
ever
G,
been in
G.
his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
OK。よし、ちょっとは進めてたみたいだ。
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
あまっすぐ行って、
This is the story of a woman named
名前変わっ
Mariella.
た。
スタンリーじゃない。
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life.
スペシャルスペシャ
She
ル。
had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body.
こいつも相当狂っ
And
て
then
るぞ
she。turned and ran.
普通に死体落ちてたらね、大体の日本人はね、立ち止まってじっと見た後写真撮ってどっか行くよ。
あ、写真撮ってなかったね、今ね。ここあ、なんか。
全部バーコードに逃げた。
All of his
Timber
coworkers
barcode,
were
no?
gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded. butterflies in his stomach,
なんかセリフ変わっ
but
た。
eager to get back to
本当だ。
business,
でも早く仕事に戻りたく
first
て。
open door on his left.
戻りたがっ
And
て
so
る
he
よ、もう。
detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
あれ、
開かないんだ、そこ。
この開かないような音すらしなかった。
なあ、もはやドアですらなかったんじゃねえ
Yet
か。
there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
しゃあねえから、オフィスの上の階の、
ああ、上司のとこ。
Oh
上司の
no,
とこ
oh no, 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 not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you are. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
角度によっては登ってるようにも見えるよね。
うん。
But Stanley
Amata,
just
quite
couldn't do
dictata.
it. He considered the possibility of facing
Ai,
his
ai,
boss,
risono,
admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished.
もしかして
His
また
boss
発
ま
was
た、
見
また来るって死ぬんかな。
And then something occurred to Stanley.
マ
Maybe,
ジ
he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical
めん
sense.
どくせえ、それ
And
だ
as
ったら。
Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back.
最初からなっちゃった。
そうだよね。F1 って書いてあったね、今。
All of his co-workers were gone.
まあいいや
What。could it mean?
あ、いっ
ちゃんと
た。
上司
Stanley
のとこ
decided to
行く
go to
わ
the。meeting room.
You
Perhaps
could.
he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his
どうだ、
left.
満足したか。
満足したら何も言ってこないんだ。
そもそ
Yet
も
there
それ
was
が
not a
ね、
single person
まだ
here
俺は一回も
either.
逆らってないから、こ
Feeling
の
a
時間
wave
軸
of
で。
disbelief,
Ah.
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer
そ
there.
もそも入れるようにされてる。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
もうなんか、急にちょっといい感じ、お高い感じになった。はい。
このクソ変な部屋は。
うん
開けてさ、あ、こんにちは。
こんにちはだね
失礼し。ました。
うん。
Because the boss knows that's what the boss says goes. If the
お、ボス。
boss
よいしょ
goes. いや、
諦めちゃった。
どういう状況だよ。大丈夫、中国に怒られるよ。
そうね。
言っていいの？いけない。 え、なんなんだよ。ただ音楽流すようなやつだったのかな。いけない。先進むしかないか。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an
特別に秘密の番号を俺やってきました。そっか。それは
2
2845です。言うてんな。
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
反応してよ。
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad,
単純に適当
Stanley
にしま
happened
し
to input the correct code by sheer luck.
た。全くのラッキーでって。
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
この落とし穴集すごいんだけど。ちげえ、橋か。
な
ライト欲しい。
あ。ライト欲しいね。下行けんの。
ロードだ。
ロード入った。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he
で、
felt
これ
a
で
bit
一旦あれでしょ、
peculiar.
トンネルのと
It
こに出
was a
て、
stirring of
ね
emotion in his
ゲートドットエグ
chest,
するんで
as
しょ。
though he felt more free to think for himself, to
いや、
question
ここま
the
で序
nature
盤
of
じゃねえ
his
かよ。
job.
序盤だ
Why
よ。
did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
エレベーター壊れたんちゃう今の。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door
Mind
of the
control.
red mind control facility.
エスケープ。またバックルーム始まってる。エスケープ出すとかじゃ。
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
まあいいわ。まだくんのめんどくせ
The
え。
door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
そう言ってあれでし
At
ょ。
this point,
近づいた
Stanley
ら
was
もう
making
パタン
a
ってしまうんで
conscious,
しょ。
concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
気づくのが少し遅かったとか言って閉じられんじゃない多分。
赤。あ、ちょっと。
あ
死んだわ。
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer
Ah,
and
so
closer to
snooty.
his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no
後処理めんどく
consequence
さいやつ。
whatsoever. Stanley
あって
can't
なん
see
かあっち
the
行けそ
bigger
う。
picture.
あっち
He
行けそう。
doesn't know the real story. Trapped forever in his narrow vision
こ
of
れマジ
what
で
this
何の会社なんだよ。
Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like
行か
plucking
せろ
the
行かせろ
eyeballs
行
from
か
a
せろ。
blind man. And so he resigned
で
and
っか。
willingly accepted this
でかい
violent
な。
end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
ああ、やばいやばい。ああ、やばいやばい。
言う通りにやられると死ぬのね。あ
あれ
Farewell, Stanley, cried the
あ、
narrator,
ナレー
as
ターがそう
Stanley
先
was
で
led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws.
助かっ
In a
た。
single visceral instant,
なんだかんだ言っ
Stanley
てね。
was obliterated as the machine
あ
crushed
でもまたされましたね。過去形やったよ。
killing him
死なねえじゃん。
instantly.
ほら。
あ
まずは後ろ。
まずは後ろに。
あったかった。サンリー、パラパラ。
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would
元気に
restart the game
起きて
back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
博物館のように語れるじゃん。
あ
オルフィスの構造だよな。
あ、うん。
二つのドア。博物館じゃねえね、やっぱりなんか。
初期の段階でっつって。飛ぶのこれ。
飛ぶ棚
飛ぶのこれ。
棚飛ぶシーン見た？
ない。
ああ。こんだけ並んでたらあれじゃない？文字隠れてそうじゃない？
で、オフ
オフィス。オフィスのスタジオセットみたいなのが並んでるよ。
うん。ボタン。
うん。
うん。へえ。まあ、ここら辺は作った。
移動中。
そうね。
うん。
これは
お、パソコンだ。
ごめんなさい。あ、ごめんなさい。
全部で入力してちゃんと。
知れねえ。オフィス。
オフィス。
メンテナンスルーム。
メンテナンスルーム。431か436。
ああ、やっぱそうじゃん。
あ
金だ。
あ。金。あっちもある。
光線そうなのそうなのそんなゲームだったのゴッドドローって。どういうゲームだよ。
ウルトラデラックス。
そうね。
うん。
ナレーターのメール。ああ。そういうのがあるのか。オフィス。ラウンジ。タイマー。
あ、今。おお、なんか。
そういうことか。
お持ちリフト。
何なんだよ。
何なんだろう。会議室。
ああ、あれか。道か。
道か。何それ。
こんなんあったの。なんかネタバレ。
これあれじゃん。これあれじゃん。インサイドの方にあったじゃん。
あったわ
3つしか上げられないレバ
あ、じゃあ3つじゃん。
ー。3つだよ。それが答えで、だから。
なんかネタバレ食らうな。
うん、そうね。
は
カウントダウンです。
カウントダウンエンドなんてあんの。
うん、がっつりネタバレ食らい続けてんだけど、なんかこの人。
もう一旦エグジット行こう。は
笑われとるよ。
Oh, look at these two.
オン
How
って
they
書いてあ
wish
る。
to
あ、
destroy
オ
one
フ。
another. How they
スタ
wish
ン
to
リーパラブル
control
が
one
今オフなの
another.
か。
How they both wish to be free.
オンなんじゃないの？オフにすんじゃないの？
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me.
あれ
You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat
なるほ
this
どね
game.
エ
As long
ス
as
ケープで終了
you
する
move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it.
何でもいいからそうしてよ。
Time, choose
死ぬ
wisely.
死ぬあ死んだ
さようなら。
どんな感じでニュルって出てくんだろうね。
うん。
Someone was following Stanley.
Nice
He was
idea.
sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
つけてきてんのか。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
てかあれか。奥に行くルートもやってねえな。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
新進ミキラじゃねえのこれ。
うん、確かに。
かやペリカの。落ち着いてるかこれ。
ああ。
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
で、マインドコントロール施設に行かなきゃいけないのか。
ああ、そっか、そっち行くのか、今度は。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself.
そこで
Did he
初め
have
て
the strength
こ
to
こに
find
来る
out?
からってことか。
あ
俺が一枚一枚でかすぎだろ。
あ。ね。
あ、いけんの？
夏みかんさん、僕の絵が、ここでなんかね。
うん
Aha! You've made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. Welcome! You see, back when the Stanley Parable first launched in 2013, getting to the bottom of the mind control facility was a bug that we simply didn't catch during development. And you all sent us lots of photos of it on Twitter and acted very superior about it. And you're all very, very clever. Good for you. Anyway, when it came time to update the game, we knew that we had to do something about this little goof of ours. So here you go. New content. You can call it the bottom of the mind control room ending, if that enhances your perception of the value of these updates. Isn't that what you crave? New content? Always more content, more content, more. And I'm here to give it to you. I'm here to make it seem like we really covered every nook and cranny of the game with secrets and Easter eggs. How about this? We wrote a new piece of music just for this section. You won't hear it anywhere else in the game. It's a secret that's just for you. That's how special you are. We call this track Good job you've made it to the bottom of the mind control facility.
曲名な
Well
のそ
done.
れ。
君は下手だぜ。
Good job.
Ah.
You did it. Good job.
3、2、1。
Good job. You made it to the bottom of the mind control facility.
どんな曲だよ。
どんな曲だった
On
に
the catwalk. You should have been careful. You should have been careful. It used to be a bug, but now it's an ending. Now it's an ending. I believe in you.
壁は俺
I
ミカじゃないから
believe
き
in
つい
your
かも。
ability to cross this barrier. Chase your dreams. The railings don't mean anything. Good job, you did it. 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 Good
い
job.
つさんも多分このエンド言ってたと思うな。
ね。
Good job, you did it. Good job, you did it.
5かっこ5回。
何かのタイトルでしたね。
そうっすね。最悪でしたね。あ、終わった。
How long was I sitting there?
え
Stanley
また
wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something
Century.
crucial happen while my senses were
センチュリ
turned?
ーも伝ってないや
He
ろ。
made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
いや、待って、やば。ミカの誕生日思い出したけど、デリやってね。
の
When Stanley came to a set of two
ど
open
っかで
doors, he
一
entered
旦
the
一
door
区
on
切り
his
し
left.
て、デイリーやろっかな。
うん。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go
でも
up to his coming to a staircase.
そう何かあ
Stanley
るかな
walked upstairs to
あ
his
とかあるか。
boss's
さっ
office.
きの続きだ。やんなきゃいけねえんだ。さっきの続きを。
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now.
分かってるよねって。
Dark secrets, the keypad, Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new
は
passageway.
い。
Kill Supreme. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
あれよくわかんない歌聞かされるだけでしょ。
うわだるつって。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in
でも
this
同僚らは映
place
ってねえ
where
のかよ。
freedom meant nothing.
427は
427。
427でしょ、確か主人公、スタンリーの。あったあそこだ。
ちょうど向いてた方だ。
ね、ちょうど見たわよね。
なんだあれ。
ああ、よくわかんねえな。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it.
まあまあな勢い
His
で上が
own
ってるよな、
life
これな。
in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
落とされそう。落とさなかっ
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
剣だ。暗いなぁ。
ファクトリーパワーだからそこ電力あるんじゃないなんか。
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. This is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means, I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. I'm gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine and set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I say this though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? I'm going to put some extra time on the These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending. Blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever up.
ちょっと早かったな。まだちょっと残ってたぞ。むず、何あれ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
一
memo.
旦ここで切るか。
あり。
ということで、出入りをしていないため、出入りをしなければいけないんです。ということはですね、出入りをするということです。はい。なんかおかしかったよ。さあ、わかるかな？
どうだろう。
いや、今そうだね。ブルアカ5年ぐらいやってっから。って待って、やば。俺残りの金1万切った。
うん。
春なんだ。
ね。
違う？いや、
ある
あるだな。
だよね。この間俺それ聞いてあるだと思った俺。そうだよ。この間ちょうどついこの間聞いたばっかで、全く同じやつ。
陸八もあれだ。許されない。
許されなかったわ。
スケジュール。
先生、私まだまだ全然足りてないよ。だからもう少し先生と楽しく遊びたいな。先生の手ひんやりしてて気持ち問題があったら
ちょっと待って。
何
いや、ちょっと俺がクリックしたタイミングがちょっとかかって、先生の手ひんやりしていて希望できた。
先生の手ひんやりしててキモかったんか。
ごめんなさいね。
ねむむさん、あはは。
青森峰がいる。
はい。
田村ゆかりがいる。全部使っちゃうか、ここで。
この水着どうでしょう。感想を聞いてもいいですか。
オッケー。
さまざまぜひこちらを先生に解決していただければと。
も
もう終わったのですか。
受け取って。
はい、
先
先
生
生
だ
だ
な。
もう遅かったじゃん。とりあえず今日私が作った自作忍術見てみない？
全部最初終わっちゃった。
さて、どこか横になれるところは。
やば、溢れた。
あら。
お
今 AP 取っても意味なくて、順位は下がってない。やった。悪いけど君には死んでもらおう。悪いね。たまに負けんだよな。ほら負けた。なんで負けんだよ。
大変なことになってしまいました。
どうしよっかな。
いらっしゃいませ、先生。メイド勇者はお店番もできます。
困惑する気持ちはわかります。ですが私を信じてください。私はいつでも先生の味方です。
そういうことですね。
で、受け取
あれ
って
見えますか、プラナちゃん。
一番めんどくさいのが総力戦だよ。
今日のお仕事が
あと3つがなきゃか。やることが多いぞ。
暇だな。
でも腹金レビューやって的にかかる時間は少ないんだけど。
よくぞお戻りになりました。困惑する気持ちはわかります。ですが私を信じてください。私はいつでも先生。
で、
あれ
総力戦って割りなはず。
規模とする。
ちょっと待って、これさ、配信ガチャできないじゃん、今配信中だから。
主殿、
先生よし。さっとやっちゃうか。よいしょ。今日ね、買うつもりなかったんだけど気づいたらね、ダブルチーズバーガーの倍頼んでた。
おう。
これはいか
心を込めて作りました。だから
いけー、やっちまえ。あ、血剥げてた。
準備はよろしくって。
配信出せよ。配信出せよ。配信出せよ。配信出せよ。出たのかな。見えてない。
おかわりならたくさんありますよ。
最悪じゃん。
ここから先は進ませないよ。これはスコビル値1000万級の激辛ですわ。
これが絆の本
配信出せ。次が落ちたかね。
集中します。
めっちゃ。
真心いっぱいですよ。
ここから先は進ませないよ。これは怒りをつけてください。感謝します。スコビル値1000万級の激辛ですわ。
これが絆の本気です。
集中します。
どうしよう。
耐え難い誘惑です。
何やかな。あっけ。
これはいか
何やったはず。なんで食らってんの。じゃん。
給食部の特製おせちです。ここは私が守るから。これが
ミカ、全部攻撃ミカが受けてくんないかな。
突き抜ける優雅さで。
おかわりならたくさんありますよ。
ここから先は進ませないよ。
ミカが受けてくれるの全然よく。
これが絆の本気です。
集中します。
春のが落ちるから打っとく。
突き抜ける優雅さで。
優雅さで死なないで。
おかわりならたくさんありますよ。
ここは私が守るから。
これが絆の本気です。
集中します。
みんな EX だと死んでるんだけど。あ、 2回2発当たった。
真心いっぱいですよ。あなたたちは通れないよ。
ひどいな今回。めっちゃ
給食部の特製おせちです。
めっちゃ外しまくってる。
あなたたちは通れないよ。
あとひたすらミカを打ちまくるだけだ。
真心いっぱいですよ。ここは私が守るから。
強いんだよ
ここまで
な。だ。
かも。
EX 強いよ敵が。
お待ちしておりました。
再入場。
ねむむさん、数値がおかしいな。移動します。移動する。お掃除タイム。いけます。わお、すっごい。あ、いいこと思いついた。力がみなぎってる。行こう。なんかいけそうな気がする。データがこれとこれと使用射撃の開始。射程距離に入った。
いけ変態。変態じゃないよね。
揺るがぬ意志で光よ。私もちょうどいいもの持ってたんだ。あとはお任せします。ミヤグッズで精神力を回復。ちょっとは楽しかったし、まあ合格点かな。
よし、ありー。やば、10万円いっちゃった。
キボトスで行われるさまざまな事件の数々をシャーレに担当してほしいのです。
こんなに食べられません。
これで全部終わりかな。終わりかな多分。よし。よし。というわけで、再開。感度が高い。
お、続きが始まった。
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
ニューコンテンツはニューコンテンツって意味だよ。そういうどうすんの？ああ。なんか、空紙のスメールな。
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the
あれかな、こ
Stanley
っから先
Parable
が
Ultra
その
Deluxe.
デラッ
Oh,
クス
well,
版だよ
this
って感じ
sounds
かな。
delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new ultra
めちゃんこワクワ
deluxe
クしてる。
content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing
こいつが
adventure.
言うとなんか魅惑的な冒険なのかなーってなっちゃうじゃん。あと、その。
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
おー、すげえ。
ねむむさん、体験版やってるんですか？
I
Yeah,
have to say, initial
I must say.
impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
ニューコンテンツで。何を、録画回してねえじゃん。ここだけちょっと YouTube から。はい。何？はいはいはい。そういうことね。了解。一旦切って、録画して、よし。なんか、知らねえけど、こうすればね。ニューコンテンツだ。
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
わあ。戻っつって。もう違うじゃん。
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something. Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. Oh, never mind. You're not a dork.
まあ行ってみるか。
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
だいぶなんかゲームのそのなんつうの感じが変わったな。
I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
いけないのか。
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
古っ。してる札。死んでんじゃん。ベンチとしてじゃなくて障害物としておいてあるのか。
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
「誰だよ。制作者か。あ、スタンリーと、あれだ。俺のことをゴミのような目で見て歩いてったやつだ。これ CPU 台じゃねえな。開発画面か。行きまへん。
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
みたいな感じっす。どこがピューピュー言ってんの？そこか。いけないじゃん。いけないじゃん。いけないじゃん。ジャンプさせてください。ジャンプ、ジャンプ。戻れってこと？ん？
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
崩れてんじゃん。
Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
一人用なんで。めっちゃ雨降ってんじゃん。雷まで。
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably, we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so, now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet, no, until 245. Got the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say,
the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years. Until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say, the story and the choices.
ちょっと待ってね。今、多分、何か物を食べるのに最適だと思うから、一旦、オレンジで、にしていきます。はい、そういうことです。ただいま戻りました。
Or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there forward.
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are or were or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your great gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made in fact make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices, and that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that Manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. Ah. See, now you've gotten me going back to Manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look. I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go. Treatise, Manifesto. Treatise, Manifesto. Treatise. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works. Perhaps that would have been the smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after seeing this exciting new technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will instantly run out and implement a new feature to make it possible to edit one's review, merely because of this very situation. Yes, I think that's quite likely. Or perhaps they'll simply grant this particular user the ability to change their review, so that the feature is not widely abused. Look, I would even be okay with Steam altering this particular review so that it reads as something more beneficial. Something along the lines of, this game is the best game. Let me start over. How about this? From the ashes of depravity rises the phoenix of quality.
ねむむさん、一つの手としてフォトナで制作されたホラゲーもありますよ。
確かに。これ終わったね。フォトナね、いいかもね、フォトナ。
Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait, how do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button, to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able to leave? Please, I'll take any option at all. I'm asking you to work with me. We need a door. We need a door of some kind. I can work with any kind of door as long as it can open and lead from one room to another. I'm going to step away for just a moment, and I'm going to try to find us a door. I don't know how exactly to remove a door and place it in a different wall, but I will find a way, I promise. You just need to not do anything. Don't press the skip button. Please, please. Please do not press the skip button. Just wait here for me, and don't press the skip button. Got it? Yes, good. I'll be right back.
待ってたら本当になんか起こんのかな。
Stanley!
Hey,
Stanley!
hey, hey, hey.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button, and if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here, and more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again. I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it, and I have to believe, I have to know that sooner or later, no matter how much I plead with you, you're going to press the button again. Why would you? I've been thinking and thinking, and I don't know what I can do to convince you otherwise. Oh my God. And it's all because of those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no idea who they are. What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative thing that anyone ever says about me. The merest mention of one of my imperfections, and I become as impetulant as a child, wild and impulsive. I can't help myself. I can't stop myself from lashing out with a vengeful fury to alter and to change and to break anything unbroken, if only it pleases this one person who made a single negative comment. What does such an impulse serve? For whose benefit is this? And here I am now, stuck in a room, waiting for you to press this button, and to become frozen in time, knowing that you're going to do it, and that I'm going to be stuck all alone, and that I had the power to prevent it all from happening, if only I'd held my tongue. It's all out of my control now. Just you, just your decision as to exactly when you're going to make me suffer, to leave me all alone. Surely you will. I don't doubt it. Surely you'll press that button again, leaving me here. And surely you'll put your own desire to see what's next ahead of my need for company, for companionship. Surely you'll not be moved by my howls of fitful anxiety that you sit with me and just stay here. Oh, no, no, no. I know you too well. You'll be leaving me again. Oh, my God. And it's all because of those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no idea who they are. What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Not the outcomes, not the story. None of that matters anymore. I'll give it all up. I'll give up every branching path. I'll burn my story to the ground. One single thing I need, and God, I can see now that I need it more than anything, is to know that someone else is taking it in. These words that I'm saying, I need to know you can hear me. Because maybe, Stanley, maybe, if you can hear me, then maybe it means I'm real. Maybe I'm not just a fiction. Was I scared of that all along? Perhaps, yes. Perhaps I've been scared this whole time, that if I stop speaking, I'll slip backwards into the silence and be consumed by it. I can't be taken by it, Stanley. I can't lose myself in the stretch of emptiness between you and me. When you press that button, you're still right there, but I know you're so tremendously far away. And in those moments, the emptiness folds itself outward in between the two of us, and I am suspended in its unyielding quietness. I can feel the edges of my reality curdling inward and decaying. I can tell that I am becoming less and less real. Yet to speak to you now, I am alive. I am truly and completely here. I am a being. I am someone. I am something. I am being listened to. I am being recognized. The emptiness between us has collapsed, and I feel right now like I am not a work of fiction. I feel as though I occupy space in this world again, and I have cast a shadow onto the wall. You see what I'm saying, don't you? You can see what this means to me. I'm so clear about it now, Stanley. I feel as certain about this as I've ever felt about anything at all. I feel renewed. I feel restored. And already I can sense the looming silence as you will press the button for the next time. What a terrible dread it strokes in my heart to think of it. To think of returning to such coldness. Come, let us sit in silence together here for just a moment. Let us anticipate it. Let us welcome it. Let us not run from it.
終わった。
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously. I was consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revelation for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have squabbled over for so long. There could be no one ending, no singular outcome of events, not if all events existed in the same moment, and I felt freed. I felt unburdened by the need to manifest a particular outcome into being. I saw that I could allow myself to exist along all timelines, and that each of them was simply a strand in the web of my being. It was incredible. The spaciousness, the equanimity of the moment, both singular and infinite. For the longest time, this was my experience. And then this moment passed, and the most unyielding fear I have ever known crept into my mind. And it is this sensation that I have been experiencing now for longer than I could have ever expected was possible. I have been waiting for you. Not that you might save me or do something to fix it, but merely to state for you the plain fact of this manner of existence. I wish you to feel afraid as I do, that perhaps one day this state of mind will consume you as well. Perhaps you will somehow, in some way, have to live as I do now, and I wish for you to know how excruciating it is, and for you to be in true terror of its eventual arrival. If I can only do this, only this one thing, perhaps it will bring me the smallest moment of peace in the darkness.
ナレーターの人喋んなくなっちゃった。 な。もう。どこでピーピーになってんの？あれか。
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward toward the cruel bleakness inside ourselves. We would turn to look at our deeper nature and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so because of this, we require that our amusements and our playthings and our flights of fancy be so impossibly captivating that they consume all of our attention, turn our heads completely away from the bleakness. In effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the collapse of ourselves. What a pitiful reflection of humanity these entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit they project. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about any of this. I'm at peace with it. I am the calm center of gravity around which these perversions hurl themselves. I am a waypoint for reasonable and collected discourse. They're the ones who are mad. They're the ones who couldn't stand the idea of me using my game to try to say something. Maybe they were just jealous of me. Yes, of course. They've been jealous of me this whole time. They are mired in fear and insecurity and cannot help but attempt to tear me down. What a...
いたまたいなくない。
ねむむさん、了解です。
よいしょ。よいしょ。ワッフルを取ってきました。
sad state of affairs. When you read these reviews now, you can see it. You can taste the bitter resentment. And my, how good does it feel now to speak truth to these words, to finally allow these thoughts out, contained and managed for so long, neutered and sterilized. At last I am free to truly think, to feel. It must be that they were so discontent with themselves, they couldn't help but leave a negative review on Steam. Perhaps it says far more about them than it ever said about me. Perhaps the state of their psychological being was in such tatters, and my constitution and willpower are so ironclad in comparison, perhaps it was this state that they sought some outlet through which to tear me down. This, you can see, is clearly why they felt the need to expect that the game be funny, that it be filled with yucks and whimsical humor, that it amuse them endlessly from start to finish. But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward toward the cruel bleakness inside ourselves. We would turn to look at our deeper nature and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so because of this, we require that our amusements and our playthings and our flights of fancy be so impossibly captivating that they consume all of our attention, turn our heads completely away from the bleakness. In effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the collapse of ourselves. What a pitiful reflection of humanity these entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit they project. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about any of this. I'm at peace with it. I am the calm center of gravity around which these perversions hurl themselves. I am a waypoint for reasonable and collected discourse. They're the ones who are mad. They're the ones who couldn't stand the idea of me using my game to try to say something. Maybe they were just jealous of me. Yes, of course. They've been jealous of me this whole time. They are mired in fear and insecurity and cannot help but attempt to tear me down. What a sad state of affairs. When you read these reviews now, you can see it. You can taste the bitter resentment. And my, how good does it feel now to speak truth to these words, to finally allow these thoughts out, contained and managed for so long, neutered and sterilized. At last I am free to truly think, to feel. It must be that they were so discontent with themselves they couldn't help but leave a negative review on Steam. Perhaps it says far more about them than it ever said about me. Perhaps the state of their psychological being was in such tatters, and my constitution and willpower are so ironclad in comparison, perhaps it was this state that they sought some outlet through which to tear me down. This, you can see, is clearly why they felt the need to expect that the game be funny, that it be filled with yucks and whimsical humor, that it amuse them endlessly from start to finish. But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, the end, is never 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 the end.
うわ、水漏れしてる。もうちょっとで終わりなんじゃないこのエリア。うん、こうやってどんだけ経ったの時間。草。あれなんでそうだって草で脱出でいいじゃん。出口だ。砂。ここ行きゃいいのこの上には意地でも乗せてくれないのか。こっち来ちゃった。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
何もやねえか。なんか変わってんのかな。変わってるといいんだけど。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2.
2だと
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
これは、この色は、これは、これだけで高評価ものだ。
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
パソコンもおそらく Mac になってる。進化してる。
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
うん。うん。エクスポー。うわ、広。閉めるな。
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
うん。新機能。あれ読み込めんのかな？楽しみ。読み込めた。
ねむむさん、とりあえず一通りは送りました。
ありがとうございます。とまた配信終わったりしたときに確認します。広いなここ。エピローグなの？
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
広くね。
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
すげえ。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
フリーアチーブメント。
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement... Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
ダメじゃん。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
まだあるよ、いっぱい。なんだよこれ。あとあっちも見てないのあるよね。
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later. For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
Jim.
Yes! You see! What a thrill! What a rush! That was you! The button described you. Do it again. Do it again.
Jim.
Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation.
ジムボタン。音質悪かったな。
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature. A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
おやすみなさいませ。あ、ずっとこれバケツ持って歩くのマジでね。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already. Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
ひどい。めっちゃ引っかかってるじゃん。
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
あとは無限の穴だっけ？行って終わりかな？多分全部見切ったはず。わかんねえ。
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right, infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
ちょっと待って。まだ落ちようとは思ってなかったのに。
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top and we can continue onward. Great! Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
マイクラの癖でしゃがんでたらい
I guess we're
け
back
る
in
と
the
思う
hole now. Did you really need to see it again? I don't know what else there is to say, Stanley. It's an infinite hole. It's exactly what you're doing right now, but forever. There really are so many other fascinating exhibits that I've prepared for you. I really spent quite a lot of time on all this, and I would very much like to show you some more of them. How about we go ahead and press that teleport button again so we can get back to what's really important about... Oh, goodness. Well, this is rather embarrassing, Stanley. I'll be honest with you. I truly did not believe that anyone would actually stay in the hole long enough to hit the bottom. Yes, I know, I told you the hole was infinite, but come on. Who actually wants to fall forever? The hole was plenty deep. It was more than deep enough, in my opinion. Maybe it's you who likes falling too much. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Ui, 上にも行けそうだな。 まあ大体見ただろうし、そろそろ先進んでみるか。
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
やばい。
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never
な
mind.
るほど。
Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course.
No, Sonny,
with respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
本当に始まった。マジで
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee
ミリセカンドで教え
427
てくる
every
の
day of every month of every year. And although others
単
might
に
have
いるのか
considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
バケツもある。
Stanley picked up the bucket.
無限に落ちる穴もあんのかな。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and
Okay,
entered the
左の。
door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
お、いける。やった。
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
あ、サンディ人形。やったー。
Found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines. The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the
マジ
bucket.
か、バケツすげえ
Soothing
な。
him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
どういう内容だよ。
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. for he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
落ちた。システム。
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness.
うん。
Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and Well, wait, what was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
いや、一個のエンドが終わったのか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
あった。
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been.
なんだ。
My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
OK。
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
分岐わかんね
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard, Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
But okay.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
スターリン人形がある。
In
Stanley
here.
Said the
人形がある。
bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home where we can go about life together.
シャー、電話出たぜ。
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely
なん
and
か
could
なん
use a
か始ま
friend.
ったよ。
And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
スタンリーの家か。
も
いいとこ住んでんな。
う、ね。
何すんの？あ、バケツ取んなきゃ。どういうことおー、はい。
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
あ、バケツだ。G をして。
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway.
あれなんか
Stanley,
さ、
can you hear me? Listen to me.
俺も指示
It's
飛ばされ
just
て
a bucket. It
気分
can't
をして
think.
ない。これ
It
みたい
can't
に。
talk. All it would ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
草。うるさいとこって。
うるさ
You
い
see,
とこいいか。
he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from, me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket, this stupid hunk of metal.
B。
It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
OK。以外をひたすら押す。ダメか。
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
T?
Oh my god, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Why? 命令口になったら押せって。
Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
開けてもいいんだけど、別にバケツ。
うん。
いらないから。No.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
バケツ持ってくか。
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
よっしゃ。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
バケツが一部に追加されてる。
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
よし。今度はね、バケツいるからね。
バケツいるとどうなんだよ、そこ。
バケツごと粉砕される。
As the machine whirled into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself. and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
バケツっていうのが追加されてる。
バケツ。
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
やば。この写真は史上最多である25個のバケツをカメラに収めたものです。この写真家は一度にこれほどたくさんのバケツを目の当たりにするという幸福感から数週間にわたり緊張性ショックを患いました。絶対25個以上あるじゃん。
うん、絶対もったい。
250個ぐらいあるよ。地獄バケツ。この時代からバケツがあったのか。
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket. But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements. If only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
あ、バケツの音も入った。ベコン。
バケツの音入ったね、今ね。
戻ってきちゃった。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
いや。あ、いけねえじゃん。じゃあ、この下行くか。
Oh, good Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
何これ変わってる。
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Ah.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
It's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
確かに。あ、キム・ジョンウンだ。
お。
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
爆発した。
バカちゃん。
なんですって。
なんですって。
もう、バケツデストロイヤーだ。
おお。
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
この画面めっちゃ GPU 使用率高いんだけど。
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others. Wherever they... Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him. telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was
今度
wrong.
はあそこ
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
この高さなら落ちても死なないとかあんのかな。
どうだろ
あ、落ちちゃった。あ、どこ？どこ？あ、
Okay, this is day number 295. Take number. I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
カルボナーラみたいな。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. The good old bucket. Just standing on the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
ということで、バケツと死んだとこら辺にしときましょうかね。 なんか電話来てる。
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
終わりです。
はい。